All right, everyone. We are here, and it is that time of the week again, Tuesday at 2 Eastern Time. Can you believe it? It is Association Chat. And this week, it's a takeover. Oh my God. I have enjoyed watching it's just a magnificent group of super smart, savvy, and sophisticated women coming together over and over again to discuss technology, and in the association space, no less. Who are these amazing women? Well, it's the Association Women Technology Champions, AWTC. Yes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And we are talking about event technology stacks today. And, you know, the thing is of course, with AWTC, they are nothing if not unique and always interested in doing things a little bit differently. So I want to pass it over to Moira Edwards to talk with us a little bit about what we're doing here today and a little bit more about AWTC.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kiki, and hello, everyone. And thank you for letting us take over Association Chat. That is so cool. You know, and people say to us, what is AWTC and why are you champions? So we're champions because we're about not just for women who are techies, but for women who just use technology, who advance technology in our associations. We in some ways serve associations, and we may not be in IT, but we are forward thinking about the use of technology. So we formed AWTC as a place to educate ourselves and others on topics of interest and importance in our space, and to be able to share our knowledge, but actually really importantly, to be able to ask stupid questions, right?
Yes.
Right. There is no such thing. We've had some of the deepest techies ask some of the most basic questions in some of our meetings, and it's been fabulous. It was started by a group of women who like to get together and drink wine and talk about technology.
As a lot of good things.
I know.
The auspices of a great beginning, right?
There was no golf involved in this at all.
Yay!
So when we have an in-person event, we continue the tradition by having a happy hour, right? But when we do that, we don't reach out to people who are outside the DC area. So what is incredibly fabulous about this, Kiki, is the chance to reach out to women across the country and to involve women and everybody who's interested in AWTC today. So thank you so much. We're very grateful for your letting us take over today. I want to talk about our speakers. On the screen with me today is Suzanne Connors-Bowman, who's a Senior Director of Marketing Communication at COSIN, the lovely consortium for school networking. Also on the screen right now is Eva Montgomery, Sales Manager with Cadmium.
Hello.
And as soon as I disappear from the screen, coming on will be Tina Marmor, from Marketing Events Manager at Fontiva. And so what we're going to do today is it's a modified fishbowl. So our panel is going to start the discussion. But if you want to participate, there is a seat for you. Just use the chat at the side, indicate to Kiki in the chat that you have a question, you have an opinion, you'd like to share. And as soon as there's an opening, she will bring you onto the video feed. We have 4 slots. She'll kick somebody off, and then she'll bring you in, and then she will exercise her powers to kick you off again, and we'll have our panelists back on. So with that in mind, Kiki, I will ask you to use your Master of Ceremonies powers, kick me off, bring Tina on, and let the games begin.
Okay, and with that, thank you, Moira. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. You know, the thing about this is that I've been waiting for the opportunity to be able to do something with AWTC. And so being able to do this has been just a dream come true. I want to do more of these. I want AWTC to spread across the land. And so I am inviting Tina on. Tina, yes. All right. So this is going to be a lot of fun as I exercise my wonderful magic here and bring people on. I want to start off with a question for all of you. The question is, what does a strong, future-focused event technology stack look like? And what do you consider part of the event technology stack? Yes. All right, so I'm putting that out there. Does anyone want to volunteer to jump in to the fishbowl with a comment or response?
So I'm happy to take that one to start off with that. So I really think that, an event tech stack is something that, needs to be strategy focused. It's not one size fits all. It needs to be scalable. It needs to be user friendly. And I really think it needs to be able to reflect not only your organization's changing needs, but your attendees' changing needs as well. One of the biggest thing that I've learned over, the 20 years of my career is that it really needs the platforms that you're using, the solutions you're using need to integrate well. So if your event tech stack doesn't play well together, you're in a whole heck of a lot of trouble. I was reading something the other day that said, event planner is the 5th most stressful job and career that you can have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And so I feel like I really rely on my event tech to help me not add to that stress, but to de-stress it.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Tina, this is Eva. So Tina, I agree with you as far as the integration. I'm seeing all of my clients are increasing the number of places where we need to integrate with their various other platforms. So for example, the AMS, most of our clients are asking us to integrate our abstract submission system with their AMS platform, as well as integrate with their registration system. So I think any future technology is going to require some kind of integration capability. Mm-hmm. So whether that's built into the platform, whether you have a team in place, like an integration team, it's going to be key that you have something that can grow with attendee needs, as you said, but that also has that integration capability.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I see Moira says a future-focused event tech stack has room for new components to plug in. Yes.
Yes, right. I would definitely agree with that. I just know even from our platform, every single year, even though we introduce new products every year based on client feedback, it's just never enough. Every time we introduce something, it just sparks 10 more ideas that people have. So for example, you introduce a mobile app with note-taking capabilities and attendee networking. Well, now people want matchmaking capabilities between the attendee and the exhibitors. I think there's something out there called brain dates, where people are connecting with each other based on a certain topic. So you introduce that, and I'm sure people who are using that have 10 other ideas of how they'd want to use that technology. So I think being forward thinking with the platform will be critical.
Yeah. And hi, Nicole. I'm glad you could join us. We also have Joanna saying a future-focused event tech stack allows participation in person and online. It should also include a recommendation engine to help attendees get the most out of the event. Yes. Awesome.
I think the other thing
I agree with that.
We have all of these specialty people who are specialists in what they do. And then we have to, as associations, we have to kind of be the glue that puts them all together and make sure that even if you're having a great experience with event registration, if that negatively impacts your join renew online, then you have to think of the big picture as opposed to just little pieces.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I think that people get confused about, what should I pay the most attention to? What should take priority? With something like an event tech stack, it really could be all of these different things that feed into it. Where do I begin? And with that, I want to say that people have been voting. You guys are great voters already, and you've upvoted. The question that has the most votes right now is, what do you think is the biggest trend in the event technology space? So I'm going to pose that to our panelists right now. What do you think is the biggest trend in the event technology space right now?
So I'm willing to take a bet that I know that there's planners out there and other marketing event planners. Hybrid events seem to be the biggest trend that I see going on right now. They have both a physical and a remote aspect to them. And what I've seen, and we do these a lot at Fontiva, is they help us reach this broader audience. It helps us engage an audience that might not necessarily be able to attend the actual event, while it also enhances the overall on-site event experience. So I actually think that's a big trend that is really sort of disrupting for good the event space. And it's something that I know that our attendees and our members are really, really focused on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been hearing more people requesting for hybrid event vendors. I mean, that's not something that we do, but I know plenty of them that I can refer clients to. So hybrid events, I still think mobile apps, there's a lot of room for growth with mobile apps. So people are adopting mobile apps, but the functionality of mobile apps is growing. It's more than just a schedule now. There's so many more things, so much more functionality that people are adding. And so I would predict to, continue to see mobile apps, maybe with more predictive analytics, maybe introduce some AI into mobile apps, but I definitely think there's a lot more growth potential for mobile apps.
All right. And by the way, you guys, I'm just going to, before we get too far into it, if you haven't answered these polls, I would love for you to jump over. If you are watching this live later, when you're listening to this, it won't matter. But if you're watching this live, you'll have the ability to go in and respond to some polls. We have 3 in there. What could you not live without in your event technology stack? You have some options there. Gamification and event apps, which is where we're headed right now. Love it or hate it. Love, hate, meh. And then what do you think is the trend that we'll see in every event in 5 years? So why don't you weigh in before we get too far into it, just so we can get your gut reaction to that right now. So speaking of which, while you're answering those polls, I see that Moira said, the biggest trend I hate is gamification that results in people just posting for the sake of posting to earn points. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it? Let's talk about gamification.
I think that if we look at it from an attendee perspective and then also maybe a supplier sponsor perspective, that's 2 totally different conversations, right? For our supplier sponsors and exhibitors, it can be a really valuable tool, not only to help just with that one-to-one interaction, maybe on a show floor, but let's be honest, lead gen is important to them. So it's an easy way to get that scan. And we know that. And as event organizers, we're well aware that that's a priority on site. Now for attendees, is it just one more thing for them to do while they're on show site? Is it going to detract from their networking? Is it going to maybe detract from the content? And that's sort of like the balance that I play and with my team. How do we make this more effective? How do we make gamification not so much a chore, but something that we want to actually infuse inside of that attendee experience and the on-site program? And I'm still trying to figure that out. And I would love to hear everybody's response on that as well.
Yeah, gamification, I think it's a good start. With scanning exhibitor or sponsor booths, answering a question and earning points, I think is a good start. But I do think that we all, as an industry, to get attendees to engage with exhibitors through a game type concept, I think we need to put a little bit more thought into that game. It's kind of like that old concept where people have a bingo card and they're just running across the exhibit hall and they don't care really who they're talking to. It's just they want that little stamp so that they can win a prize. In my opinion, that's not really good use of the attendees' time. And it's not good use of the exhibitors' time. So I kind of think that there's more, maybe some kind of like an educational component or maybe a theme around the scavenger hunt game or something to make it a little bit more interesting but valuable. And I don't know what that answer is yet. I think of like that Pokemon Go
dear God.
concept that was out there. Yeah, I'm not saying that we need to do Pokemon Go at the conference, but I don't know. I have a feeling that there's quite a lot of room for improvement in the way that everybody handles, this gamification at the conferences.
Yeah.
By way of explanation, my reaction to Pokemon Go was the fact that I used to work in an office that faced the Potomac River in Alexandria. And my colleague and I actually watched someone walk into the river trying to get the token for Pokemon Go. And
wow.
they just walked right off of the park into the water, and we just kind of sat there and went, wow.
I don't know if I'm impressed by their dedication and commitment and their persistence, or if it's one of those Darwin Award type of things. Like I don't know.
Right.
But
we don't want attendees walking into a river.
No.
But I do think gamification does play a role for the less experienced, perhaps, and the more introverted.
Yeah.
And if you're having trouble walking down that aisle and making eye contact, I think that's a valid way to help people engage, especially with folks who.
Sue, that's a great point, because I know that we have a client that did that as well. So they used it for the first time attendees. And it wasn't necessarily for exhibitors. It was actually, they had different scans throughout the conference center, asking them to scan, go find a board member and scan this board member's badge and about the board member. And it was just different ways to get them engaged with different parts of the conference, because you're right. As a first-time attendee, it's very intimidating. If you've never even gone to a conference before, it's very intimidating to go to a conference with, let's just say, 20,000 people and 100 different activities going on, and you don't even know where to start.
So I want to take a second for those of you who are watching right now. You've noticed that one of our panelists has switched in and out. And so, Tori, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, happy to. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be the first fish in the fishbowl. And if anyone else wants to jump in, just say so in the chat. But my name is Tori Liu, and I'm the Director of Information Systems for the American Speech Language Hearing Association. And I actually have a question. It's kind of looping back to gamification, but also what Eva was saying about some new kind of experiences you could introduce at events. I've been pushing lately at ASHA, echoing this idea of designing everything with a customer first mentality. So our very brilliant director of user experience, Rene Shonerd, shared this article with me from 2016 in Harvard Business Review called Jobs to Be Done. And so one of the things I wonder from the panelists and the other folks watching here is, when you're talking about new event technology or what your event tech stack should look like, are you considering what job your attendees actually want to have done? So for instance, Eva was talking about a newcomer to your event. What do they actually want to accomplish by coming to your event? My guess is it's probably not a game that they can play and points that they can earn. It's probably something along the lines of, I want to make a sale. I want to have better business. I want to find a mentor. Or I want to find just some professional contacts or develop my career. So I'll put that out to the group, because I feel like often when I'm working with our events team evaluating new technology, the vendors seem to be kind of missing that, and so do we. That we're just forgetting what people actually want from coming to these events. I killed it.
What I find usually attendees are going there for the content. That's what I'm seeing. They're there to learn something new or something that's going to help advance their professional career. So whether that's in the exhibit hall or whether that's in the education sessions, I think that's really the number one reason why people are going to conferences, is for some kind of professional development. And so I think understanding that technology is not going to take the place of that, but it should be there to enhance that whole experience. Sue, do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess I would add for my group at least, networking and connecting is really important.
Yeah.
So they're more interested. They can get the content in other ways, but they're more interested in finding people of like interests. So my members are education technologists. By the way, they may not actually know technology very well, but they want the ability to connect, share problems, look for solutions together. So when we're reevaluating our app as we are this year, that's something that we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, I have to say that's one of the things that I've noticed with apps too. Hey, Tina is back. Tori had the awesome question. Tina's back in. But yeah, I look at apps and I think they have all of this functionality, but do you really want your attendees to be walking around looking in their app and not interacting with each other?
Right.
Because they're supposed to be getting so much value out of face-to-face, right?
Absolutely. So I actually, it was funny. I saw in the chat, everyone's like, "Oh, crickets chirping." I'm like, "Oh, this is one of my favorite things to talk about." So I know it's funny. So one thing that I've been sort of focusing on, we have a conference that I manage at Fontiva, and it's specifically for the users of our product. And we have many different user personas. We have membership directors, we have Salesforce admins, and it's pretty hard to create one universal experience for maybe an IT director versus a CEO. So one thing that I've been working on with my team is really trying to create a custom and bespoke experience for each attendee persona that we're dealing with and helping them navigate that through even before they get on site. So what I am able to do is I harness the data through our join process and through our registration to customize everything from, the content journey that they're going to depart on as soon as they get on site. And we nurture that relationship way before they actually step through the doors of the Grand Hyatt. And even down to, who they're going to be sitting next to at lunch. We want to pair them with other, like we've done brain dates before, but we also have some, little thought leadership opportunities for all of our members of our user network where they've expressed interest maybe in a registration form that they want to benchmark more with other membership directors. So the goal of creating these custom experiences in a larger event, per se, is that we want them to feel connected. We want them to feel a part of it. And it's that experience was created just for them. And that's apps help with that. My solution that I use helps with that, but nurturing before attendees get on site and managing that experience before they get on site so that they're well prepared to navigate through all these different user journeys is probably the best. It's definitely the best thing that you can do to curate that experience. It's also the most challenging, right? It's a bandwidth issue. It's a whole thing, but it's one of the things that we have found years of running, many different personas on one event, creating those custom bespoke experiences. So it feels like we made every single piece of content exactly for that customer. That's what gets them coming back year after year.
See, that makes sense to me because, when you're on site, you're going through it, people aren't going to have the same experience. We're all there for different things. And so depending on what type of customer you are, what type of experience you're there for, you're going to want different things out of your app. You're going to want different things. We're talking a lot about apps right now. I want to, but we know it's not all apps. I want to go to another question that got a lot of votes, and that is, what's your current situation with your event stack? What's a challenge that you're facing? What's working? So I want to go ahead and start, want to pose that to our panelists right now. What's your current situation with your event stack, and what kind of challenges are you facing with it?
I think I was chosen for this as the poster child of we got a lot of things going wrong and a lot of things going right. So not half empty, half full, but we had not upgraded any of our technology for 5 years. that includes our AMS. We had outsourced a bunch of stuff. So now we're in the process of bringing everything back in. And it's quite the challenge of dealing with interoperability and interface is just a nightmare for us right now. And I think right now, we hope not by our conference in 2020, but 2021, we'll find ourselves in a place where the event experience is much more positive. It's not as fragmented, and people aren't having to go to do things in multiple places. So our current registration system does not work with our AMS at all. We've just gone to another. The registration system also did not do a great job with speaker management. So again, even 2 years into this new position, we're still kind of like picking up the rock and going, oh, put that rock back down. So our challenges are to put the pieces of the puzzle back together.
Yeah, it's interesting. Over here right now, what's going on is we have comments like the current event stacks are fragmented. No vendors can handle the needs, soup to nuts. And that was Rene.
I agree with that.
Such a good point. And I mean, it's...
Yeah, I agree with that. What we find is just the sheer number of vendors that we're asked to integrate with. So when we integrate with registration vendors, there are 10 different vendors that we need to work with. Same with AMS. Same with if people are using our speaker management module and they want us to work with different mobile app vendors. Just so the sheer quantity and each vendor has their own technology. So then, how do you build that expertise that can integrate not just your own internal platform, but with all the external vendors out there? It's really been a unique challenge. So we brought something that I think. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say something that people need to take when you're deciding which platform you're going to implement. And which vendors you want to work with. I would highly encourage event organizers to bring everybody to the table and have these integration discussions months and months ahead of time, because it will add delays to your implementation of the actual event module.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if people understand that.
There has been such a huge response over in the chat over about this. People are responding and saying, yes, interoperability is hard. I thought it was just normal to have several different systems. But Moira, you said something that really seemed to strike at the core of how people tend to be feeling here. And you were talking about what seems to be hard is getting event reg done well in the AMS, and lots of orgs having to be outsourced and expensive. So yeah, what's happening is there are all these different things. Talk to us, Moira. What are you seeing out there?
Well, I'm seeing that Cvent is expensive, and right. But there are a lot of organizations that are using that or some other option for their event registration because they have such difficulty getting the AMS to do it right. And Sue, I know you all had that experience, and many of the solutions out there for your AMS advocate that they do events, and really they should, because if there's one thing that an AMS should do, and after membership, it's get them to events, right? Because that's what our associations are all about. And some of them, I'm even going to say present company included, do it quite well, and but some of them are just really awful. And so here's the thing. If I'm an association, my event is what makes me uniquely valuable to my members, right? Mm-hmm. Right? It's not just a transaction. If I need team registration because I want to bring a healthcare team of allied professionals who are going to learn together on how to deliver the best care, that is what makes my event unique, right? If I really need to be able to offer different discounts, different tracks, different people coming at different times, right? That's not just a nice to have. That is part of what differentiates me in the marketplace. And so, you know, the shout out to all the AMS vendors out there. You know, I think sometimes we go off and we go and do some crazy things to extend our AMSs, but allowing some flexibility in the event registration is probably what gives the biggest bang for the buck in purchasing an AMS. Big purchase. I do not want to have to go and get Cvent on top of it, or Eventbrite, or QMS, or whatever it happens to be, right, Sue?
Yes, absolutely.
I feel your pain.
By the way, Rene, if you wanted to jump on, you should let us know, because I'm loving some of the stuff that you're sharing over here in the chat box. So Rene says, call for proposals, selection, speaker management, logistics, booth sales, registrations, website, app, beacons, surveys. She brings them all up, but I love her rule of thumb. And I'm trying to scroll back to see where she said, if you can get it down so you can count them on one hand, then integrate those, then you're winning. And that I know, the one hand. And so they were trying to do it.
It's still daunting.
I know. That's really hard. Very, very difficult.
So is that a reflection that this is still a relatively new area of technology? The fact that there's so many different people out there doing different things, trying different things in their apps, different things in their registration, and that it hasn't settled down a bit? Is that why it's so fragmented? Or what would actually make this all integratable? Actually, I don't know the answer. Never ask a question you don't know the answer to. I don't know the answer to that question. Rene, help me. Rene, what would make this all integratable?
Yeah. And by the way, this is a reminder to anyone who's watching right now. If you want to jump on the camera, if you want to jump into the fishbowl, you're able to do it. Just let us know in the chat, and we can take somebody out and bring you in to be a part of it. If you want to add your questions, then you can add your questions.
I know there's, at least from our standpoint, when we work with different, so there's different software language that people might be using. So that's one challenge that you might have with integrating. But then just something as simple as, some of our clients call it a call for abstracts. Some of our clients call it call for proposals. You know, just even that standardization of the language of what you call an abstract submission site and what you're calling that process is a challenge. And that's just one little piece of the whole event management platform. So if you think about it from start to finish, just the terminology that people use, you know, it's difficult. I think that presents a lot of challenges. And then as far as Moira, going back to your comment about registration sites offering different discount codes for attendees, because you know, from the attendee standpoint, it's great. You know, that they can see the value, but then what we see on that flip side is then we need to integrate with that registration, with all of those registrations, and so then to limit within our mobile app what content different people get access rights to. So when it works great, when it works great. But a lot of times there's these one-off little instances that people, it's not working exactly the way it should for that one specific attendee, and you need to do some troubleshooting. And that's where there's no way for us to anticipate all of those one weird off occurrences that might happen. And so I would really encourage, if you're going to do something within your event, pay the extra money to have on-site support. I think I've seen people where, you know, they've spent all this money on the whole event technology stack, and then when it comes to paying for the on-site support, the budget's just not there. And I'm telling you, from an on-site user experience, it makes a world of difference to handle those weird occurrences that your normal staff won't be able to handle on site.
Yes.
So I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but that, especially if it's an integration and they have these weird, complicated situations, I totally push the on-site support.
So Rene, welcome to the fishbowl.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you come to Association Chat and AWTC, and you're on camera. So I see that you had, first of all, you had the great rule of thumb of trying to really aim to get your systems down to one hand. If you could have like just all of them in one hand for your event tech stack, maybe you win. But then you also mentioned less systems. So talk to us about your perspective on that. Like, okay, what are you seeing? What have you experienced? And why do you feel so passionately that this is the right direction to go?
Well, integrating all of these systems is what you guys were just talking about as one of the biggest challenges that we face when we're dealing with technology with the event stack. So if integration is difficult, the way you can win, right, is to have less integrations. So when you're selecting the vendors that you use, if you can find vendors that can perform more than one of those functions for you, that is the way you can bring down that number of systems. So when we think about the event stack, I think it would be a great exercise for every organization to sit down and do, to say, all right, let's talk about call for programs. Then let's go through the volunteer peer review. Then those sessions that were, abstracts nominated get selected. Then we need to plan logistics for those. Then we need to display that stuff on the app. Then it needs to go on the website. Write all that down and the names of all of the systems that you're using. And if you start to track where you need integrations within your stack, I've seen some symmetry between the call for programs to sessions to logistics to app to web, right? That's all one data set when you think of it in your data. And then registration for both exhibitors and registrants being in the same system. And then your AMS as the piece that links those things together and processes the sales. You can get that down to a lot less systems when folks are looking at everything holistically instead of my department's in charge of the app, my department's in charge of registration, my department's in charge of content. When we think about these things in silos, that's when we end up with a stack that is way too tall and the challenge of integration. So if we can cut that down, so I was saying less systems.
Oh my gosh.
So that's my soapbox for the day.
I love it. Thank you for jumping on that soapbox and sharing it with us. And, while you were speaking, then we had some people who got very excited, and it seems like they were jumping on their chat soapboxes as well about middleware and looking at data warehouses and API integrations for the win. So we've got William over here and Jeanette and Tori and just having a good time. In the meantime, we also welcomed back Tina. And so, Tina, I want to go into asking about, from your experience working with clients, what have you been seeing?
Yeah, and I love giving this full disclosure part for the folks in the AWTC community. Everyone knows that I am Fontiva's marketing events manager, but really what I am, I was an association director of meetings for 19 years. So I speak association, and I'm still really involved in that association world in addition to what Fontiva's clients are experiencing. But honestly, I think the biggest challenge for my event planner peers is having the member data all in one place. As event planners, we're so used to having, like what Rene was saying, these different silos of, I have my training team that is only working with, the customer training. And then I have my membership folks who are only handling that. And the data doesn't talk to each other. And that is the biggest Achilles heel when everything is all over the place. And then it's up to me as the planner to bring it all together. And so if we can find a way to have all of our member data in one central location and then build on top of that, that's a great starting point, right? I mean, there's a solution, there's an event tech solution for every single problem that I can face. Do I want to use it all? Heck no. But where I need to start is making sure that my data that is clean and true. And that's as easy as saying, I need to know who these attendees are, where they're coming from, what their personas are, and how many years have they belonged. And then I can go from there. And I know I'm trying to take a easier said than done approach to this too. It's something that we struggle with here at Fontiva every day. So we're working on it, and I want to hear everybody's experiences on that as well.
I love it. While you're putting together your thoughts on that, I want to welcome back Eva to the Fishbowl. I also want to thank everybody for answering the polls. We're going to go through and we're going to just share what the responses were. So, what could you not live without in your event technology stack? Attendee registration, booth and sponsorship management, online program in an event app, attendee interaction in an event app, feedback evaluation, beacons, on-site tracking, QR or barcodes for session booth scanning. We had lots of options. And other. And the most popular one with 45.5% was attendee registration, which makes a lot of sense. The second most popular was feedback and evaluation, which I think also makes a lot of sense. When we move on to gamification in event apps, love it or hate it, 45.5% love it, 18.2% hate it, and there are a lot of people feeling indifferent about it. 36.4% said, meh, yeah. I added the rest of that, but meh was pretty much where 36.4% of you were. And then what do you think is the trend that we'll see in every event in 5 years? We had artificial intelligence, voice response, beacons, automated attendance tracking, real-time data analytics, and other. And most of you chose real-time data analytics at 45.5%, followed by artificial intelligence at 36.4%, and then beacons and automated attendance tracking. So what do you guys think about the results of our polls?
I'm not surprised about real-time data because I know that's my biggest ask and also my biggest complaint as a planner. And it's also the greatest asset that I have in my toolkit is if I have real data, real time, not only does that help me on the planning side, but being able to deploy that to my on-site attendees, that is a game changer. You know, real time to me, I see Moira just asked, how would I use my real-time data? Easy way I use it at every event is it's inevitable. I'm sure every planner on the call right now has had a speaker drop out, a room change, or a quick session description. I'm able to quickly update that inside of my event management application, and then that's deployed across my mobile app. I don't have to freak out and run around and change 22 by 28 foam core signs. I can deploy that information out through my digital signage and fix that. Room changes especially, and even from an emergency management standpoint, being able to connect with every single attendee at a moment's notice and know where they're at, that's where I use real-time data.
All right, so I wanted to go over here to the question, should an event app continue after the event? This question got 2 votes, and we also got a response on that one, which indicates that people are really engaged and wanting to know more about it. Because William, you answered absolutely. 365 engagement. Yes, 365 degree engagement. Absolutely. You want to continuously follow up, right? And so why is it that ends up being such an issue? Why don't we have more of that today?
I actually think it's kind of psychological for the attendees, because once the conference is over, are you really thinking about, like, we just ended ASAE 2 weeks ago in Columbus, Ohio, and am I thinking about what I experienced at that event at this moment? Or I don't know, it's almost like once that event is over, you're moving on to thinking about the next conference that you're attending or the next thing that you have to do. So I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I think it's a challenge for especially for event planners, because as soon as that one conference is over, you're already thinking about the next conference or the next educational event that you're planning. Mm-hmm. So how do you take your focus off of something that just ended and then still try and keep people thinking about that event that ended when you're already thinking about something else.
Yeah. And
does anybody else feel that way?
Yeah, I struggle with that too. And I think, you know, from my perspective with my customers and clients, you know, we've tried engaging our attendees pre-event through the mobile app. And that seems to really help as far as like a logistics standpoint. But you're right, psychologically, you know, it's tricky to get folks to stay responsive. Now, pushing them to maybe a community for post-event engagement, where pushing our attendees to view, you know, those session videos, maybe connect more with other speakers on a community. I've seen a little bit more success there. But I mean, gosh, I'm ASAE has burnt me out, and I'm pushing forward towards Dreamforce right now, guys. But yes, I think you're totally right.
Yeah, you know, it is so interesting that that these we end up saving so much to them that can be valuable. And I think I saw Tori talking about the notes and all of these things, these contacts, and how many of us actually go back and do the things that we need to do, the follow up later, where we're like, oh, these are the contacts I made there, and we make sure that we have them somewhere else. You know, and so Tori, you're back. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the data question, because that is something that both in the chat and, you know, within the different panelists, what you've been talking about as well. And that is that it is a challenge to be able to sort of bring all of this data into one spot. And I think it was Joanna who was talking about, it seems like it should be simple, but it's actually not that simple. And it's also, by the way, pretty expensive. So could you maybe speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, of course. And I think it's actually one of the reasons why Asha hired me for this role, because I have a background in data analytics. I will say, I think it's becoming more attainable. I mean, with all technology, the longer it ages, the more cost effective it tends to be, especially for nonprofits. So I do see more vendors in the space that are offering pretty cost effective solutions for centralizing data. But I think for us, and I think for most associations, the main problem has to do with resources. We're lucky here at ASHA, we have a dedicated group of people focused on data analytics, but that's not true at a lot of associations, including ones that I've previously worked at. So it's really hard to say, yep, we're going to do this giant project around data governance, and then we're going to get a data warehouse, and then we're going to establish middleware so we have seamless integrations and blah, 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 when you don't have the strategic support behind it. So I think it's going to come down to a breaking point where associations are just going to decide that this is part of our business from now on, that we just need to prioritize data the same way they did event registration. I mean, at a certain point, we all said, you know what, managing events through an Excel spreadsheet and like faxes is a terrible, terrible thing to do.
Oh, those days of faxes.
Right? I remember that. I'm like, I'm ready to send out the fax blast, guys. Are we good? Like,
Fax blast.
Yeah. So I'd pose that out to the group. If we're talking about the future of event techs, and we've already established that data is critical to that, where do we see that going in the next 5 years? Do we see more AMSs making that more attainable? Do we see event registration systems making that more attainable?
I think it's on the front of my brain, you know, as I'm lucky enough to have access to a really great solution that does capture attendee data in a way that is really meaningful to me as a planner. I think being able to measure, as a planner, I'm always being asked by my CEO and my CMO, all right, what is this event worth? Prove it to me. Tell me what we're getting out of it. What are our customers getting out of it? And what I'm hoping for is being able to continue to use event data and harness it in a way that showcases the exact value of that event. And not just from, you know, the organization standpoint, but how do I measure the ROI of the event on behalf of my attendee? And so if we work on that and capturing the appropriate data, even as basic as adjusting registration forms, but also looking at what our holistic view of our membership, you know, looking at the member 360 view of what our members are doing tracking their engagement, being able to harness that into what we're using for evaluating future event plans. I think that that's sort of where I hope to be going. That's a hope of mine. It's something that I'm striving for here at Fontiva, and I know it's something that our clients are striving for as well.
Tina, do you think event or consumer demand is going to change that for you? I mean, do we have to prove our ROI, or are consumers just going to start demanding like, hey, like you need to stop asking me what sessions I want to go to. You should know, like you have.
Yeah, you bring that's
that, like
yes. That you bring up a great point, and I think we are almost there, right? And I guess that's something that we also need to be aware of as planners and membership directors as well. You know, making sure that we're well aware of what our members and what our customers want and need, and keeping track of that and being able to engage with them in a meaningful way. So that's not too far off, I'm sure.
Yay!
Everybody's feeling really good about that. And then, Moira mentioned over here, she wanted to mention that Michael had said earlier that associations don't know their data, which we feel, I think we can all like nod our heads and say, yes, we see that over and over again. And the question about how can you demonstrate the ROI of event data analytics? Is it when expectations get to that stage, just like online registration which is now expected? Rene says there's a long tail to measure too. Don't forget the captured content that we're reselling in the LMS. And Jenny says, if only we could listen to our members' conversations like Google and Siri do, then we'd know exactly what education they need. Beth says, we can probably buy that data. Haha. Okay. So, that's a very interesting point, though. There are more and more ways that we can glean the data. One thing that we haven't talked a lot about, and which also didn't get a lot of interest in the polls, so maybe I shouldn't even bring it up, is really beacons and things like that. Ways that you're capturing what people are actually doing as they're moving through the experience of being on site. Did I mention something and I shouldn't have?
No, you just kind of broke my heart a little bit.
I know.
We had beacons at our convention last year, and then our convention and meetings team couldn't get approval for it this year. And this has less to do with tech and more to do with just, I don't know, how sometimes humans work against technology. One of the reasons was because our conventions and meetings team is so excellent. They knew what the real-time data was already providing. Like they could just
it wasn't
flowing, and they were like, "Oh, we need more coffee in this area." And it was. Right now, the technology could not surpass our convention and meetings team's years of experience. Maybe if it was more affordable, we could do that, but beacons are a hard one. I mean, the hardware, no matter which way you go about it, if it's RFID chips or if it's cell phone, which everyone hated.
Yeah. And coming up over here, Sue says beacons can generate real data privacy concerns and need disclosure and explanation, which is becoming more and more of an issue these days. And Moira says, woohoo, meeting planners.
I'm having an issue.
Meeting planners are doing well.
Like I see privacy becoming more and more important. Like even when attendees log in and they're asked to share their profiles, a lot of them are like, no, I'm not sharing my profile, because they don't understand that they're only sharing it with other attendees. They're not sharing it with the world. But because of what has happened with Facebook and some of these other sites, I think people are very, very sensitive to people following their every move. And so that's my big thing with beacons, because I've talked to clients about beacons, and they're like, our members would never go for being followed.
Right.
We had that same problem. We had lots of leadership that was very, very concerned about it. So we ended up doing it anonymously. So we didn't know who was going where. We just were looking at crowds moving, which is part of the ROI. I saw Moira in the chat also suggested tracking for continuing education units. We've talked about that. The ROI, I think, is definitely there, but you go into, with any kind of certification, continuing education thing, we have to have a better way of validating the information. So what if something went wrong with the technology and someone claimed that they were in that room, or they just like left their beacon in the room for an hour. So that's been kind of the concern, that there's not a great way to verify it. And our certification's everything. I mean, our honor and our association's reputation is based off of that.
Yeah. I over here we have, my members are seriously pro privacy. Some apps need staff on site to support users, not understanding how to use them. And that's absolutely true. I saw a flip phone at our last event. Any others? And people were talking about not only do they know people who are still carrying flip phones, but you know, I do know people who have gone back to flip phones because of the privacy issue, which is so bizarre. But they're just so against the data being tracked that they're going back to flip phones. Yeah. So flip phone users need a kiosk as well. Yeah. Yes. So I want to quickly ask before we wrap up, and I'm going to bring Moira back up for a second too, because I feel like, you know, all of our panelists have done just an amazing job. I have been thrilled to be able to be the button pusher and bring people on and off. This has been a lot of fun. But this is such an amazing topic, amazing panelists, an amazing experience. And I just want to hear from those of you who are watching right now in the chat. Do you want more of this? Do you want to see more of this? Do you want, what do you think about AWTC and this wonderful fishbowl experience, talking about event tech stacks?
Yeah, we would love to hear your feedback in the chat. You know, we're not drinking wine today. We have our water. So there's like we have our, you know, our company approved containers. Yes. But we do have meetups. We actually try and have a meetup just about every month of the year. I think we're still working on one for September, but I know that we are planning, we're definitely planning what has become an institution, which is the happy hour, the AWTC happy hour at the tech conference in December. And so we hope to see many of you there, because there is a huge value to meeting face to face. This is lovely. And, you know, it's great to see our online faces, but there's something great about this community, and a community of women, you know, coming together to really help us all navigate the complexities of technology as well as the complexities of work life. So we hope to see you at our next meetup. We just launched our website. We have a Facebook group. We actually started using Meetup and LinkedIn, and then we went to Facebook for managing the group. And Facebook has been pretty good, but we actually have a website, awtc.tech. Woohoo! And thank you to the wonderful Catherine Matthews, who has been publishing our website. And so we will be posting all of our events there. So you need to bookmark it if you still do those sorts of things in your browser. And a great and wonderful and warm and tremendous thank you to Kiki Italian for allowing us to join up with Association Chat, because really we do want to reach people who can't make it to our in-person events. And this has been a wonderful chance to discuss this topic, because it's a great topic, right?
It's a fantastic topic, and I'm so excited that we got to collaborate on this. I'm hoping to be able to collaborate with everyone with AWTC some more, and actually to participate in person. I would love, I need to start going to these things because I'm lucky enough, fortunate enough to be close geographically. But for those of you who are watching and listening later or watching later, and you think this is amazing, I want more of this. Look, Association Chat's great, but I'm going to try to get AWTC to come back on too. I want them to come back on and to be able to reach everyone, all of you out there who maybe haven't been able to visit in person and get to know them in person. Then when you come into the DC area, maybe you can come and be a part of one of their in-person meetups. So thank you so much, Moira, for joining Association Chat today. And thanks to all of you. I hope you all learned something special, something that you'll be able to take with you. And I want you to keep learning every day because, as Joseph Campbell once quoted, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So I hope you have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.